that word. What I'm going to cover today is how do you select the right custom and safe audience for your business or your clients, and things that can help you just to build that funnel and those steps, right, for your campaigns, whether it's for your business or whether it's for a client. For those of you joining, this is live, so make sure that you comment, or if you have questions, make sure that you comment below. I'll be checking the comments throughout the session. So if you have questions, just let me know, comment below, I'll be covering them as well. And so you want to think of audiences as stages, or I call them temperatures through, you know, for your audience, that they want to go through each step, right? So you want audiences to go from not knowing to making a purchase. And that's basically your in a nutshell, your funnel. You're trying to move audiences, and that's how you build your funnel. You're pushing audiences from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And so at each stage, I'm launching a campaign, and that's where the whole remarketing comes into play. And I think of it as temperatures because I think it's a really easier way to understand targeting and audiences on Facebook. And so before even going into like what's a safe audience and what's a custom audience and all the different things that you can do, I think it's important for you to see this framework, because I think it's going to be much easier then to understand, oh, this is actually the audience I need to use, or this is the one that I need to use. I don't need to learn all of them. I don't need to use all of them, but I can just focus on specific ones. And this is how I actually end up building this funnel that I'm trying to do. And so you can split this in different ways. I like to simplify it and use just 4 steps, and where you have your cold audience, you have your warm audience, hot audience, and customer. And you're pushing people or users through each stage, starting with people that don't know you. And these is usually an audience based on interest, geographic demographics. This is where you go into Facebook, and we'll do an example where I go in and I say, well, I'm trying to find people from this specific zip code with this details, you know, who have these interests, who are graduated from university and use iPhones. And then you're pushing content or ads to those people, and you want to bring them to the next step, which could be a website visit. It could be someone that interacts with your Instagram content or content that you have on Instagram. And then you want to push them to people who are actually adding products to your cart, or people who send you a message on WhatsApp or Instagram to ask for information to make a purchase. And then you have your customers, right? So people who actually ended up buying from you from your website, databases that I can upload into Facebook, and then Facebook can look for those people. And those are going to be your customer at the customer stage. So I'm pushing people through this funnel or through these different stages or temperatures. The closer, right, a user is to becoming a customer, the hotter it becomes, because you're closer to making a conversion with that user. And this simple framework, I think it's very important to understand, because it's going to allow you to build funnels easier and understand how to remarket and how to use audiences within Facebook as well in a much simpler way. It's very easy to get lost in all of the different things that you can do within Facebook, but I think that using this simple 4 steps is going to allow you to build those funnels and use audiences properly as well. And you want to think of your audiences as little circles, right? Where your cold audience is always going to be the biggest ones. Why? Because this is all the new people that don't know you. These are the niches or targets or specific audiences that you want to reach and try to bring them into your funnel, so that they become warm, so that they start interacting with your content, they start visiting your site, they start, you know, getting closer to a conversion because they added a product to your cart. They basically send you a message to ask for information on WhatsApp or a direct message, or they went to your Instagram Shopify and looked at your product catalog and selected products, right? And then you have your customers, which is everyone who's actually made a purchase from you. And so you're always, what you're trying to do is you're going to start with cold audiences, and your warm, hot customer audiences are going to be very small. and you want to start growing them. And that's the whole strategy of how audiences work within Facebook. And so if we take an example, and I'm going to use this for now, but usually you're going to have these 4 different types of audiences. I'm going to start with the cold ones, right? So this is going to be audiences that are usually saved or lookalike. So when you go into the tool, and if we go to the tool of Facebook, you're going to see that you're going to have 3 different main audiences that we're going to look and see today: custom audience, lookalike audience, and saved audience. Usually for that first stage, that cold audience, the people that don't know me, right? This people right here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reach new people. So I'm using saved and lookalike audiences to reach new people because I want to bring them somewhere. And so when we go back to the tool, you're going to have your saved audience, and we're going to start with that one. And this is basically the audience based on demographics, geographics, behaviors, interests, anything that you can think of when you're trying to target users, right? So you're building a buyer persona and you're going into Facebook and you're saying, all right, from that specific niche or market, I actually want to target and find people. And let's change this. We're going to put here, let's say India, just to take an example, because we have people from all over the place. So in India, you have 350 million people, and I'm going to rush a little bit through this, but you know, you can pick like people from 18 to 24. So I'm going to pick people 24 to, I don't know, 37 years old. And I actually want people who have interest in WhatsApp. And so I'm going to select no results found. So let's put, let's see, browse. Let me think. So we're going to put, let's say, Facebook. Yeah, so let's say influencers on Facebook. And I can basically build that campaign, and Facebook tells me there's 1.3 million people. And so I'm going after cold audiences, right? I'm going after new users or new, and that's the key here. Is I'm going out and finding new users. So you always want to look your saved audiences to go out and find new users or new audiences that you're targeting. The other type of audience where I'm also using as cold audience is lookalike audiences. Because with lookalike audiences, what I'm doing is basically going to Facebook and saying, I actually have a small database or people who visited my website, and I want you to go out and find users. And when I mean by users is new users as well. So I want you to find all of these different people in my country who are similar to my database or to that seed audience. And so Facebook will go out and they'll find all the different people who look alike or who are very similar to that base that I have. So I can go into Facebook and I can tell them, awesome, like I'm actually going to use a database, or I'm going to use people who visited my website, and I want you to also go into India. And in India, I want you to look for a 1%, so the 1% of people that look alike the most, like my base. And so Facebook will go out and say, okay, we found 3.6 million people that are very similar to this database or people who visited your website. And so this is basically an audience that I'm also using for cold purposes, in the sense of if I write here cold, because I'm also using a lookalike audience to find new people. So every time that you have a question or where you're working with a client or for your business and you want to look for new, or acquire new customers, acquire new potential users, you will be using a saved audience, or you're going to be using a lookalike audience. Those are the main audiences that you're going to be using for acquiring new users. And the other thing that you want to also take into account is that For the exams, usually a lookalike audience, and this also happens in practice, not always, but in general, a lookalike audience will be better than a saved audience. So if I'm doing a strategy where I already have a database of users, I actually want to use a lookalike audience and compare that to a saved audience. And what that will do is it will allow me to have two really good comparisons when I'm launching my strategy. And usually for questions, well, they'll tell you, which of these potential audiences is best. Most likely for acquiring new users, a lookalike audience will always trump a saved audience. Right? So in other words, a lookalike audience will perform better than the saved audience because I'm telling Facebook to go out and find those best users, right? So I'm giving Facebook a data set of current clients, and Facebook goes out and finds all the different people that are trying to reach me. For those of you joining live, make sure that you ask questions. I looked at there's some people asking, can we have access to these slides? I'm not gonna. I can post the PDF later on the who has Makiel and Brian. I can post the slides later. I can post them on the live session, so no worries. Will you make the video available later? Yes, this is live, and we're gonna save it and just publish it live on our group. So no worries. If you have questions, make sure that you ask them. So you have cold audiences, as I was talking, and your cold audiences are going to be always for new people. Now, what happens next? And what happens next is that usually you're gonna bring those people somewhere. It could be your website, it could be your Instagram account because you published an engagement campaign for your products on on your Instagram store. You're bringing people somewhere, and this is where you're building your next audience. And your next audience is going to be your warm audience. And I'll just use blue. So your warm audience is going to be people who are interacting with your content, with your website, but they're not ready to buy. And this is where I'm going to start using custom audiences. Because my custom audiences, these are people that are already interacting with my content or my, as Facebook likes to call it, your assets, right? So your Instagram account, your Facebook account, your website, your mobile application. And this is where I'm starting to use custom audiences because I'm actually I'm not going after new users, but I'm actually going after people that are interacting with my Facebook, with my Instagram, with my website, with my mobile app. So I'm going after people who already know me. It's not new people, it's people who already know me. So which audiences do I use for these type of campaigns or at this stage? And this is where custom audiences come into play. Which ones do I usually use? I think it depends on your funnel and how your customer journey works. But I could do website. So I can say, well, find me people who visited my website or blog posts for the past 30 years, past 30 days, not 30 years. I can also say, well, I want you to go to my Instagram, find everyone who's engaged with my content for the last 30 days. And the reason why I want 30 days is because I want people who've recently interacted with my content so I can actually go out and push them to the next stage. So by doing this, what I'm basically doing here is I'm telling Facebook, I want you to go out and find people that for the last 30 days have some sort of interaction with my Facebook, Instagram, website, or mobile application. Why do I want to go after those people? So if you look at the audiences here, it could be videos, so people who've watched a video. It can also mean lead forms, people who open a form but didn't submit the form. So they, we've all seen those ads where you click, it opens a lead form. Some people will submit the information, some people will just open and leave. I can actually go after those people. Or people who have interacted with my shopping cart, right? So who've viewed my products, who've seen them, who've saved products, but they haven't done a purchase. So they're a step away from that conversion, right? They're interacting, but they're not there yet. And so I'm going after people who in the past 30 days, 15 days, and this will vary depending on your product sales cycle. So how long does it take you to sell something? Are you selling something that sells quickly, or are you selling something that takes a while for the person to make a conversion or a final sale? And so I'm going after people who've interacted for the last 30 days, and I'm taking them to somewhere as well. I'm pushing those audiences, and I want to push them somewhere. And this is where you have your third stage of your audience. And this is going to be your hot audience. So if we go back to the presentation, I'm building this, right? I'm building my cold audience, warm, hot, and now I'm looking at hot audiences because those are the ones I actually want to target. And so your hot audiences, I'm also using custom audience. But custom audiences of people, think of this as of users one step away from a conversion. And this could be a conversion or a sale. So I'm trying to go after people who are one step away from making a purchase. So if we go to the audiences, same thing, but here it's a bit different because here I could go out and say, well, find me people from the website, but I actually want you to find me people, we'll pick this one, people who, initiated checkout. So people who added products to their cart or initiated checkout, but didn't complete the checkout. So I'm looking at people who are closer to, to making that final conversion. If you don't have a website and you don't have an e-commerce site, then it also could be people who are sending me messages on Instagram. So I can go out and I can tell Facebook, well, I actually want you to grab all the people who in the past 15 days have sent me a message, or in the past 30 days have sent me a message as well. So I'm not grabbing or trying to get people who've interacted with the content, but I'm actually trying to get people who already send me a message. So people who are getting closer to the conversion. The difference between, your hot audience versus your warm audience is that here you're one step from that conversion. If you're an e-commerce site, this could be add to cart. So people who added products to your cart, people who are at checkout or stopped and didn't move past checkout. It could mean if I'm just using Instagram or Facebook to sell products through WhatsApp messages or through direct messages, this could be people who send me a message. It could also mean people who actually filled out a form. So here, in this stage, I'm grabbing people who opened the form but didn't submit it. But in this case, I actually want to grab people who fill out the form. So I can go back to my custom audiences and I can say, I want lead forms, but I don't want everyone. I actually want people who opened the form and submitted the form when in the past 30 days. So I'm not looking at people who just opened the form, unlike a warm audience where I'm actually doing people who opened but didn't submit. For a hot one, I actually want people who opened and submitted the form because they already left the information. I already have my salespeople calling them, talking to them, following up with them, but I haven't made a sale. So if you think about this stage here, you're trying to find people who are one step away from that final conversion sale or who already entered your sales process. So this works a lot if you're in lead generation. So if you think about lead generation, you really have two very split stages. You have your marketing stage and you have your sales stage. So marketing is responsible for generating leads and generating qualified leads. And sales is going to be responsible for making the final sale. If you're in real estate, for example, or if you're in consulting or B2B, that means you have different stages here. And that can mean basically generating an appointment or coordinating visits so that people visit your project, people get a quote, people depends on your sales process. And this process takes time, and that will depend on the type of product that you are. But let's say that this process usually takes you between 30 to 45 days. That means that how long should I go back or after those hot audiences? Probably 30 to 45 days, right? So if I'm doing this audience where I'm looking at people who opened the form, submitted the form in the past 45 days, what I'm looking there is I'm actually going to launch a campaign for those people, for my hot audience, for the time frame or for the time that it actually takes me on average to complete that sale. So even after someone submitted the form, I'm still remarketing them. I'm still sending them information that allows me to make that final conversion. And then you have your final audience. So you went from hot, you're pushing people to your next stage or your final stage. And that final stage is basically your sale. So I make them my clients, basically. I am able to close my sales. And let's make this a little bigger so that's a bit easier. So I'm finally able to finalize my sale. So which audiences do I use? I also use custom audience. Now, which type of custom audience? That will depend on the type of business that you have, but usually it's going to be a database or it's going to be your purchase event from your website. So if we go back to your audiences, you're going to see that you're going to have website, but within website, I can basically tell Facebook, well, I want you to actually find me people who made a purchase in the last 180 days or 7 days, because I want to remarket those users again. So what I do here is I'm actually looking and going out for purchases, or I can also use databases. So and this works really well, especially if you have a business where most of your sales are through WhatsApp or through direct messages. We are contacting people, you're talking to them. I have a database, and I can go back to my custom audiences, and I can go out and say, well, I'm going to get a customer list, and I'm going to upload, email, phone number, name, last name of this person, or the data set of the users. I want you to find those users. And then we're also going to remarket those users. We're also going to try to tell those users, hey, thank you for buying, or hey, here's an exclusive offer specifically for customers. So you always want to be building, the little funnel that I mentioned here, and these are going to be your customers. And you're always pushing people through those 4 stages, where you're going to be using saved, lookalike audience, custom audience, and custom audience. Now, the type of custom audience that you use at each stage will vary, and it will vary depending on your funnel and what are the different stages that you need your users to go through. A funnel for an e-commerce site will be very different than a funnel for someone who's selling things through their Instagram shop, or who's selling through WhatsApp, or someone who is in the lead generation business and they're actually trying to acquire users for lead generation purposes. So that will depend on the type of businesses that you're targeting and the type of business that you are. But the logic will always be the same. I'm always trying to go after cold audiences. I'm always trying to, convert them to learn about my product, my services. I want them to get them closer to that conversion, to that action that would allow them to make a purchase. And I finally want to make them customers. And those are the 4 stages where you're always pushing audiences in those stages. And so when people ask, what's the difference between a saved audience and a custom audience, I would say, in general, saved audiences are used for acquiring new users. Custom audiences are used for 2 things, for remarketing campaigns. So I want to go after people who, started interacting with my Facebook page, or I actually want to go after people who visited the website and added products to the website, or I want to upload a database or use my purchase event with my pixel and go after those customers. So the big difference between saved and custom audiences is that usually you'll use the different audience depending on the stage that you're trying to target within your funnel. And the other thing is I also use custom audiences to build lookalike audiences. And that's important to see as well, in that if I have my 3 stages, so if I go back and I'll just do this quickly, but you have your 4 stages. Usually, I'm going to use a saved audience here. So people based on demographics, geographics, interest. And then I'm going to use custom audiences here, because I'm remarketing to those audiences. So I'm using custom audiences for these 3 stages. So you have cold, you have warm, you have hot, and you have customers. And I'm retargeting. If I wanted to launch retargeting campaigns, that was one of the questions that I had, is you're going after these 3. But if I want to go after new people, I'm using core or saved audiences, because I'm using demographics, interest to use those. Now, if I want to use a lookalike audience, let's write that well. You know, you have number 1, number 2, and number 3. I actually need custom audiences to build lookalike audiences. So when I'm doing this exercise here, and when I'm telling Facebook, go out and find me new people and find me new users, all these new users that I'm trying to reach, the 3.6 million that we saw for India, this is going to mean my custom audience. And from that custom audience, I'm actually building a lookalike audience. So if you think about it, I'm actually using, you know, one of these 3 custom audiences to build a new cold audience. So the base of my lookalike audience, it's basically going to be one of these 3. Why is this important? Because the more data and the better data that I give Facebook, the better my lookalike audience will be. If you give Facebook, and let's make a comparison of two audiences. So let's say you have a base of customers, but you also have a base of people who interact with your Instagram content. And you go out and you tell Facebook, all right, find me a lookalike audience, right? So go out and find me a new audience, and now we're going to build lookalike audience. One is going to be based on people who interact with your Instagram, and the other one is going to be based on a list of customers. Which one do you think is going to work best? The one on the left or the one on the right? And usually, if I have a large enough data set of customers, this should be a better audience than this one. Why? Right? So if maybe we'll find this one. Why would audience, and let's name this A and B. Why would audience B be better than audience A? So why would B be better than audience A? Because I'm giving better data to Facebook here. I'm not telling Facebook, hey, here's a data set of people who interact with my content on Instagram. I'm actually telling him, or telling Facebook, these are actual customers. These are the profiles of people that actually buy from me. So I want you to go out and find people who are similar to those users. So find me more people here who are similar to that, initial data set of customers. So if my base is better, my lookalike will also be better and will perform better. And that's something important to think about when you're using lookalike audiences, and you might find questions regarding audiences and how to build lookalike audiences within questions on the exam as well, of like, well, you could build a lookalike audience based on customers or Instagram account. What's better? It's always going to be better, you know, the closer that your seed audience, and what I mean by the seed audience is the audience that Facebook is using to build your lookalike audience, right? So that initial audience where you're expanding, the closer it is to the conversion or the sale, the better that your lookalike audience will be. So it's better to have lookalike audiences based on here than here. And obviously hot is better than warm because they're closer to that final conversion that I'm trying to do. And so when you think about audiences, I think it's important to use this little framework that I'm showing you here of like, you have cold audiences, warm audiences, hot, and customers. And I'm always pushing audiences. I'm always trying to push the user from the first step of cold, of someone that doesn't know me, to making them a customer. And that's basically how you build in a way your customer journey. When people start talking about customer journeys, this is what you're doing. You're actually thinking about the different stages that you're pushing users through. And so what's going to happen is that when you start, you're going to end up starting with a big cold audience, and probably your other audiences are going to be non-existent, because you don't have people who've purchased from you. You don't have people who visited your website. You don't have people who have interacted with your Facebook or Instagram, right? So the first thing I do is I start growing those audiences, right? So usually it's going to start like this. And what you want is to move to a place where, you know, you're always growing your audiences, because people move from stage to stage, right? Here you have new people that are moving here, they're moving here, and they're moving here. And as I move along, and as I start investing money and I start making sales, you know, there's going to be people who initially were cold, they didn't know me, but then they moved to a warm audience, or to a hot audience, or to a customer audience. So you're moving people along your audiences, and the more you can build these audiences here, the more powerful your remarketing campaigns become, and the more powerful the scale that you can do with your campaigns as well, because I actually have an audience that I can go back to and target. It's usually easier to sell to someone who already knows you, so a customer, than someone that doesn't know you. And so think about the audiences or these stages as how I want to move people along the funnel, and how I actually want to interact with audiences as well. The content that you're pushing will vary a bit as well. Someone who doesn't know you probably needs a different type of creative video, ad, text than someone who's about to make the purchase, or someone who's already your customer. But you're always pushing people along those funnels, and that's how you use usually the audiences as well. So when someone asks, you know, what's the difference between a core audience and a custom audience, it's this, is that the objective, or how I use those audiences, will differ. Saved audiences is for new ones, custom audiences is for remarketing or people that already know me. But I also know that within my custom audiences, I'm going to move people along my funnel. So I'm going to move people along this funnel, from cold, from warm, to hot, to customers. And I also know that these are going to be my saved and lookalike audiences, and I'm going to have my custom audiences here. And depending on what I do, so if I go to lead forms, it's not the same to pick someone who opened the form but didn't submit it, to someone that actually opened the form and submitted it. And if I look at websites, same thing. It's not the same to pick someone who's visited the website than someone who initiated checkout, or someone who actually made a purchase. And that's how I build my funnels and do remarketing. If you have questions, make sure that you ask them below. We're doing not courses, but classes or live sessions every week, and we're covering topics. If there's a specific topic that you want me to cover, let me know as well. And so this is just a bit of a summary of how you can then build your campaign, if you want to think about it. And your campaign in the sense of like, you have your stage, so you have, cold, warm, hot customers, and then you have your audience, and you can use this if it helps to fill out. And I can say, well, for my audience, I'm going to use a lookalike audience based on data set, but I'm also going to use, people who are interested in, I don't know, WhatsApp, Facebook, fashion, or who travel, or who do A, B, C, D. I'm going to use interaction because my funnel is going to be for Instagram and WhatsApp. So I'm actually pushing people to my Instagram account, and then I'm from those people who actually interacted, I'm launching a campaign to get messages from them. And so I already know that my cold audience is, people who are interested in certain behaviors. My objective is going to be interactions. Ad sets, I need 2 because I'm launching 2 campaigns, and these are the ads that I'm running. For warm, well, I know that for the audience, these are custom, so I need to use a custom audience on people who interacted with my Instagram account for the past 30 days. And I'm also going to use people who interacted with my Facebook account for the last 30 days. The objective, actually, I'm going to do website visits because I actually want to take them to the site. Or I actually want to do messages because I actually want to get people to send me a message and contact me. So I need 1 ad set because I'm going to put, those 2 audiences in the same ad set, and 2 ads because I'm launching people and marketing them with 2 different creatives. And with hot, I can say, well, I know it's a custom audience, so I'm going to be using people who send me a message or people who opened the form and submitted the form. The objective is just interaction because I want to reach them again. I'm going to use 1 ad set because I have one audience, which is basically people who opened the form or people who initiated the checkout. And I'm going to use 2 creatives to, keep nurturing those people or users to make that conversion. And for my customers, I know that my audience is going to be a database of people who made the purchase for the last 180 days. The objective is going to be reach because we have a new offer or a conversion campaign. The ad set is just 1 type of audience, and ads, basically I'm running 2 creatives because I want to test that out. And that's how you basically build your funnels and how you use audiences within Facebook. Let's see if you have questions. How do you use targeting using offline activity? So the only way you can do offline activity is through databases. So I see Rafi asks, what's the only way to do offline activity? The only way you can do offline activity is basically if you have a database. So we'll go back here. And if you look at customer list, you can use or upload your customer list and then be able to track those people. And you can also do offline activity, and this will usually work when you actually have locations. So if you set up there's 2 ways in which you can do this, and usually it's like offline events. And offline events is basically sales from a retail store. Let's say I have a store that is doing sales. I download all of that data where I have the customer's ID, their email address, their phone number, what they bought, how much they bought for it. I upload that into Facebook. And I tell Facebook, hey, these are the people that made a purchase. So track that and see how many people from my campaigns, how many offline conversions I had. And then I can go back in Facebook and say, all right, now from the people that visited the store, find me people who, made this purchase at the store. So if you think about it, what I basically do is I'm going to run an ad, and this ad is going to be viewed by a specific user. And then this user goes out and says, oh, this is cool, I want to buy this. And he goes into the store and makes the purchase. So what I do is I go back and I tell Facebook, all right, I want you to, I download this data and I push it back into Facebook. And I tell Facebook, these are all my offline conversions. And so Facebook will tell me, okay, like from those conversions, we actually found the user. We actually found this person. And so we can say that this ad helped make this sale. And I can then go back and tell Facebook, all right, find me users like this person who actually made an offline purchase. So a purchase at the store, basically. And that's how usually you can do offline conversion or audiences based on offline conversions, or you could just do customer lists where you know your customers, you upload them, and then you have an audience based on customers, basically. Nick asks, is this information useful for the associate exam? I would say yes, especially with audiences. I would say audiences is something fundamental for everyone to know. Whether you're doing the exam or not, if you're running campaigns for yourself, for your business, or for clients for your agency, you definitely want to know audiences, and you want to be ready to understand the different type of audiences that you can do and how to better approach, build those little funnels that will allow you to improve your results, and how to use, your different audiences and sets so that you're pushing users and also building those audiences that will ultimately allow you to be just more effective and efficient when you're using Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So thanks again, everyone, for listening today. Make sure that you join our No Excuse Challenge that we're running on Facebook in our group. We're having offers, we're having interviews, live sessions. We're doing a lot this week to help you get better prepared for your Facebook Blueprint exam and just become a Facebook marketer. Whether you're looking for a job in digital marketing or you're starting an agency, I think these are good strategies that you can follow and that will help you ultimately just bring better results for your clients. So thanks again for listening. If you are joining live, make sure that you comment. If you have more questions, also, this is going to be, it's recorded, it's live, so you should be able to see it afterwards. Make sure you check it. I'll be checking comments afterwards. If you watch this after the live session, just comment. I'll be checking and answering questions as well. Hopefully this helped you better understand audiences, targeting, and just how to, the difference between your core or the saved, custom, and lookalike audience, when to use them, and just how to build that funnel for your campaigns. So thanks again for listening. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Rafi and Nick, everyone who joined live. I hope to see you next week. If you have questions, make sure that you ask them in the group, and I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.